mute.
Okay, and then I must mute everyone. And so we are not here to treat or mitigate or cure anything. That is the proclaim of the medical world. So everyone else is forbidden to try and do that. And we have to do it, otherwise we get ostracized or shut down. So it's another type of oppression that the world is experiencing. Anyway, I've said that, I've made that disclaimer, and I'd like Melinda also to just welcome everyone.
Yeah, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for your time. Just quickly, I think we are leaving Friday. We're leaving for Somerset West, and then we will be there for 2 weeks, Glenda, Sue. And so we don't know if we will have challenges with load shedding for Tuesday, the 3 Tuesdays that we will be away. So maybe we can just put our thinking cap on and see how we can do that. Maybe if you can be the convener, and we will try and slot in. That's just something there. But welcome everybody, and it's going to be quite an interesting topic. Some topics tonight. I see some of the people that is trying to get on that are part of tonight's talk. But let's get going. Thank you. Over to you, Sean.
Yeah, thank you. The first topic tonight, I think you got the agenda.
It's Glenda.
Is Glenda Sue introducing herself and Robin to us all. Thank you, Glenda.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Charles and Melinda. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. I feel like I'm becoming part of a family far, far away, yet my heart is close. I have on today a very, very special friend. She was one of the very first people that AJ and I met when we moved to Bella Vista, Arkansas. She was conducting a course on natural foods and healing foods and how to cook and that sort of thing. And we were interested in nutrition. And there we are. We're just right away we met her. And so we've been friends ever since. We've been camping together. We've had lots of parties. She comes to a Christian fellowship with me and AJ, and we're just really excited to have her on today, or tonight in your case, to hear her story of what an incredibly determined woman she is to stay alive. She should not be alive. Wait until you hear her story. It's quite incredible. And this woman has been an international model. She modeled overseas and in New York. Beautiful woman. I've seen some of her younger pictures. She hasn't changed much. She's still beautiful. But she married a prince. I mean, come on, she was a princess, the real one. And she took a lot of interest in food as a young girl, and with her mother, and then, watched some of these chefs in very highfalutin, fancy places and situations, and learned from the best, and did her schooling and everything. I don't know that she would go into that, but just very knowledgeable. I know that in Dallas, Texas, Whole Foods years ago was just a up and coming health food store. She was the marketing director of this large operation down there and turned it into more of a European marketplace. So she's not only got the brains, she's got the beauty. She's had a lot of bucks, so we'll see how she does tonight. So everybody, get your seatbelts on. Here comes Robin Jeep.
Thank you, Glenda Sue. That was quite the intro. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you all. And I'm very happy to be here on planet Earth too. My story is pretty complicated. And I'm just really starting to unravel it. And it has to do with kind of what's going on in the world as well. And I'm sort of like the canary in the coal mine. When I was a child, my father was a rancher. I grew up, out in the country a lot, riding horses all the time. I was obsessed with horses. And, but I don't know when all of this started, but I know I was a cesarean baby, and I had ear infections up from the time I was a baby until I can remember having them, like up until I was like 8 years old. I mean, really horrible, painful ear infections. So I was on antibiotics a lot. And then I remember being given antibiotics just for a lot of things. I was a sickly child. I would feel like I had the flu a lot, and everybody thought I was a hypochondriac because they never could find anything wrong with me, but I took a lot of antibiotics. And then I became a model when I was 19, and I had some acne. And so I went to the dermatologist, and he put me on tetracycline and then topical clindamycin. And those are two pretty powerful antibiotics. And I was on those for 10 years, every day.
Oh, that's bad.
And so I destroyed my gut. I didn't know that because I didn't figure it. I didn't suffer the consequences until later. I started having some gut symptoms like IBS and things like that. And then my IBS was getting worse, and I was living in Los Angeles at the time. And I was working as a private chef for a celebrity there. And I would train horses, people as a hobby. And I was training this thoroughbred at the time. And I did have IBS, and I had migraine headaches. I stopped dairy, and the migraine headaches pretty much went away, but they would come back if I was out in the sun too much. And a horse I was training reared up and came over backwards on me and shattered my pelvis. I had 14 pelvic fractures, internal injuries. My sacrum was fractured. Both my hip joints were broken. I was in pretty bad shape. And I was at the UCLA Westwood Hospital, where they called me the miracle patient. And I ended up being in the hospital for about 3 weeks, but they didn't have to do anything to me because I was very muscular and fit. And so I just had to kind of lie on my back for about a week, and then they started doing rehab on me. And my skeletal structure started healing pretty quickly because I always ate pretty healthy and I was physically fit. Well, about 6 weeks after the accident, my gut went crazy. Oh my gosh, I started getting all this reflux type symptom, but I mean, this was terrible. I mean, I would prostrate myself in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep. I was in such pain. I'd prostrate myself on the floor and just pray to God to help me. And I was going to doctors, and they were doing scopes and all this stuff and then they put me on proton pump inhibitors, which kind of helped. And I took those for about 12 years. So think about this: antibiotics for years, and now proton pump inhibitors for 12 years. You can imagine what's going on with my gut. And so then I've been to 14 gastroenterologists, and the only thing they have in their toolboxes are proton pump inhibitors, antibiotics, and other horrible drugs. Well, my body does not tolerate any drugs, which is a blessing. So then I was diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome. And if those of you who don't know what that is, you're going to be hearing a lot more about that because people are getting it from the vaccines, the COVID vaccines. This is one of the things that happens, and that's a mast cell activation. Our mast cells I study science. I do scientific research and all this stuff. So I try to keep this real simple. But the mast cells are your first line of defense in your immune system. And what they do is they're looking for things like parasites and pathogens. And you have a lot anywhere where the outside environment interfaces with the inside environment is where you have the most of them. So you're going to have them in your throat, your esophagus, your GI tract, in any of these nasal passages, sinus passages, any of these areas which interact, as I said, with the outside environment. And what happens is when you have pathogens of any sort in these areas, the mast cells react, and they send out. The mast cells have over 30 mediators, inflammatory mediators like cytokines. See, this is what was happening to people when they would get the COVID. the mast cells were reacting and they were releasing all these cytokines. There's some called leukotrienes. Histamine's a big one. And so, and histamine is not always what you think. It's always in your sinuses. It's also in your GI tract and can cause things like reflux, esophageal issues, IBS, diarrhea, constipation, all these types of things. So that when they get activated, overactivated, when you've got like smoldering pathogens in you, which could be spike proteins, could be parasites, could be bacteria, fungus, virus, you know, different things in you, your mast cells react. If you don't get this taken care of, they will continue to react and inflame parts of your body, and it'll get more inflamed and more inflamed and more inflamed over the years, and the pathogens proliferate, and it just gets worse and worse. Well, in our Western medicine, doctors are not trained to deal with this stuff. They're only trained to treat symptoms, because as most of us probably know, pharma rules countries, it rules governments, rules the world. And why, if you were pharma and you don't care about people, your only priority is the bottom line, don't you want a client that keeps coming back? So why would you treat any of these pathogens, which you treat it once, probably with some off-label generic drug that doesn't cost very much? Why would you treat that? And then the person wouldn't come back anymore because they would be well. So this is what's going on. It's very, very serious. The medical system completely failed me. And that's what's happening to people. It's failing people. They don't know what to do. Their symptoms are horrible. They can't take the medications. They have horrible side effects from the medications. And so people are just lost. They're just lost. And that's where I was. Happened to me a little earlier than it was really happening to everybody else. And so what I found was, first I started eating whole food, plant-based eating. I only eat whole foods. The only things I can eat now are cooked vegetables and beans and olive oil. That's it. So I have to eat many pounds of that a day. So I spend a lot of time cooking and eating. And I have to eat it pureed at this point. So, but I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I had mast cell activation syndrome. So it's just, and it progressively got worse. My accident happened in 2002. So it's just progressively gotten worse, and I'll have flare-ups and then things settle down. And some of the symptoms, just to let you all know, so that people who are listening who may have some of the symptoms, are headaches, gnawing stomach, like reflux symptoms, constipation, diarrhea, abdominal cramping. Sometimes it can even get into your joints, and your joints can start hurting. And then when you're in a flare-up, you can get fatigue. Food sensitivities are very common with this now, and also, of course, with the COVID vaccine. So everything I'm describing about mast cell activation is also can be applied to some of these vaccine injuries people are getting, and long-haul COVID. So anyway, I've been doing a lot of things. And then what happens is, when you have these issues, then you become sensitive to everything. It actually makes genetic changes, which is called epigenetics. So they can't even tell if these changes were congenital or if they came later. A lot of the genetic changes we see are epigenetic, meaning they've come later because of our environment. So, and the doctors don't understand all of this. It's just unbelievable to go to the doctors, and they don't understand it, and they're trained to be arrogant. And so when you try to explain things to them, because you're not a medical professional, then they don't listen to you and get upset with you and angry, and it's a whole mess. So, I mean, there are a few rare ones who are, freaks, because they'll actually listen to you and respect what you're saying. So anyway, during this time, you can become sensitive to mold, whereas other people are not sensitive to it. You become sensitive to mold, you become sensitive to things, just a lot of things. So I became sensitive to mold, had mold problems, had to leave my home for 4 months while my partner did mold remediation. And then he got sick while doing the mold remediation. He got into poison ivy and he started getting, because I'll talk about him too a little bit. He got sores all over his legs that, I mean, were just horrible. When I came back, I was horrified to see he had to wrap his legs with gauze. He had like 9-inch sores on his legs. And he'd gotten in poison ivy and he was doing that mold remediation. And this is a man who's super healthy. We have a huge organic garden. We eat from, and he can eat all the stuff. We eat from that organic garden. He's never sick with anything. So now he's got sores up and down his legs. And so, you know, he's suffering. He goes to the doctor. They finally diagnose him. They've done biopsies. They can't find anything abnormal. So they say he's just got psoriasis. You know, they give you some symptom name when they can't figure it out, kind of idiopathic psoriasis. So he has that and he's suffering. So AJ, Glenda Sue's husband, then goes into the hospital with heart issues. And we didn't even know if he was going to live. It was really scary. And I came there to visit after he got out of the hospital. And I was in pain. I just come back from Texas and was hoping that I wouldn't react to the house. I had to live in a tent for a while. And so I came back from Texas and I go to Glenda Sue and AJ's. And AJ's at home and he's looking pretty good. He's lost a lot of weight, but he's looking pretty good. And Glenda Sue tells me that what they've been doing is this wand and on AJ, and it started really helping him. And I knew how sick he was, and I knew he was in the hospital, you know, and I thought, what is this thing? You know, it blows on you. But I thought, you know, if it helped AJ, because I knew he was in the hospital and he was in bad shape. I said, if it helped him, maybe it can help me. Well, Glenda Sue didn't hardly know anything about it other than she was just doing it on AJ all the time. So I said, here, it was sitting there plugged in. I said, let me try it. They didn't even know how to tell me to use it. She handed me some sheet, said, well, you're supposed to do all that. And I just took it and started doing my esophagus because that's where I was really hurting. And I started doing my esophagus and it's kind of the pain started to go away and I felt better. And I thought, golly, I want this. And so I just told her, I said, I want to buy this. And I'm not a person that's rolling in dough at all. You know, I'm on Social Security, which I hope lasts. And so I said, I want this. She said, well, let's see. I don't know. I kind of know how to order it. Let's see. I need to contact somebody. And she kind of went back and forth. And it took 2 days for us to order it because Glenda Sue didn't know how to do this yet. Because she just bought it for AJ. She wasn't even like really a distributor or anything, but she thought, well, maybe she'd do this. And so I got it and I started doing it and it helped. It helped a lot with the symptoms. It reduced the symptoms because I was getting to the point, I was so skinny. I'm still very thin, but I was having trouble even eating my food. And then I had to start pureeing it because my GI tract is just getting so compromised that, it's not doing well. I've got all kinds of problems. I've got my pancreas doesn't produce enzymes, which is typical with these problems. So I started doing it and I had to do it. I have to do it every day. And so I've been trying to find research on this stuff. I read a lot of research and I've read a lot of white papers on terahertz, treatments and using it for diagnostics and so forth. And trying to figure out, okay, what is this doing and what do I have? Well, finally, I found a doctor. I saw an interview with a GI doctor in Los Angeles who's become very famous because she is a microbiome expert. She's a gastroenterologist. Her husband's a cardiologist. And she does clinical research, for the FDA, and she did it for many years for pharmaceutical companies. And so now she has her own business and her focus is on the microbiome. And she is the foremost researcher on microbiome. Her name is Sabine Hazan, Shazan, or you can say Hazan. And she is, she's the one who's responsible. I don't know if you remember with COVID, she was the one who found COVID in the stool because she's looking at stool all the time because she's doing the microbiome research. And people said, no, that's impossible. It's not in the stool, it's in the lungs. And she's like, everybody I test that has COVID, it's in their stool. And so that is when the governments then started checking the sewer systems and septic systems to see where COVID, what cities the COVID was in the most. And she was responsible for that. And then this is something she saw, and this is another reason this wand is very important, is she saw that we have in our microbiome, we have something called bifidobacterium, and you'll see probiotics with bifidobacterium and so forth. There's lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. So bifidobacterium is very, very important to our immune function. And it is most babies have a lot of bifidobacterium. And as we age, it lessens. Well, the COVID vaccine knocks out most of your bifidobacterium. So that is why you're seeing people get cancer, higher rates of cancer, getting COVID over and over and over again, having the heart problems, because they've discovered that heart disease and a lot of the plaque and stuff, you've got bacteria. And so that's tied in with heart disease as well. And then just your immune system's not working to protect you. So we're seeing a lot of that. We're going to see a lot more of it. And a lot of people just drop dead with myocarditis, and it's probably some bacterial stuff going on as well, because they just don't have the immune system to deal with it. And right now, as it stands, there's not really any way to cultivate that bifidobacterium. If you've lost all of it, you can rebuild it just by eating fermented foods and eating, pretty much a plant-based diet, but it takes time. So I've been trying to figure out what this blower exactly does, because finally I hooked up with her and she did a stool sample on me to see really what was. I've had my gut microbiome looked at by companies that do that, and they do not take into consideration what you eat, your environment, your age, all this stuff. She does. She has her own laboratory. She looked at mine and she said, you have got pathogenic chronic E. coli. So I've been walking around probably since the days from all of that, not from all those antibiotics, with E. coli in my system, because I haven't had the immune system to fight it. And so what happened was, after the accident, my immune system got so compromised, the E. coli just, sort of took over. So I've been limping along with E. coli, which kills a lot of people. And mine is the pathogenic type. They've looked at the toxin that comes out of it. So anyway, so now I know what I have. And my question has been, why is this blower helping this? And I intuitively, when I was doing it, it would come to me, it would be like, this is the heat. You're heating up your body. It penetrates with heat. And then the frequencies, because there's been on YouTube talks, they're treating bacteria with frequencies. They can kill bacteria with frequencies. They literally explode certain bacteria. So I'm like, okay, this is a frequency thing. The heat's penetrating. It's got that type of heat. Is it beginning to eradicate the bacteria that's growing, this toxic bacteria that's growing in me? And I also have H. pylori. Is it eradicating that? Is that why? Because it's not the bacteria that's giving me the symptoms. It is my immune system reacting to the pathogenic bacteria and attacking where the bacteria is residing in my gut. So it's my immune system that's destroying my gut. So it's like, what's happening? What's going on here? And so I'm taking also something called bovine serum immunoglobulins, which takes it binds to all these over 30, I think 40 something toxic bacteria, fungi, and viruses, and pulls them out of the body through the stool. So even doing that, I still have to do I have to do this every day, or even better, twice a day, the IteraCare. So doing the immunoglobulins and the IteraCare twice a day, I'm able to eat more food. I'm still having to puree, but I'm able to eat more of the food that I can eat. And this doctor tells me that probably in about by the end of September, I should be well, and I should be able to eat more food again, like eat fruit and strawberries and, things that taste really good, because I can't eat that right now. But, this is where I am. I'm not healed, but I'm getting better and better and better. And I really, really, really would like to know what this IteraCare device is doing to the E. coli and the H. pylori in my system, and any other bacteria and fungi and viruses. And I believe I've seen that they're treating people with vaccine. I saw a video of somebody using it to help with their vaccine injury. And so the vaccine injuries, I'm suspecting, because it all has to do with the immune system. And so this person had a neurological issues. And so, these viruses can attack your neurons. They can attack your different organs in your body, as the bacteria can too. And so then the immune system attacks, like the myelin sheath on your nerves, which would be causing these, neuronal issues where a person can't walk and so forth. So it's all boiling down to, I'm sure it's bacteria, viruses and things that where your immune system can't fight it, that are attacking these different parts of the body, and then the immune system attacks that. And so you've got this whole meltdown of people's bodies. So this thing does something to that. I know that there are frequencies that kill bacteria, probably frequencies that kill viruses. So the fellow who developed this, he knows what this does. It's just, I believe that probably they can't tell all of the mechanisms of action, because if they do, then it will then become a medical product. And if it becomes a medical product, then they can take it off the market. So we can't have it. So I've bought 2 of them. So I haven't really been working it like I could, and I hope to in the future, because I have another business I'm doing too, because I want to use any money I make to backstock these things. I want to have a stockpile of them, so that if they do get taken off the market, I have plenty of them, because there is an electrical product. It's got a motor. It's gonna burn out at some point. So I want to be able to have another and another and another, because I need it. This is life and death for me. So my background, just to let you know a little bit about my background. After I had this, I really went into studying and research and finding doctors, and I worked for a world famous doctor, Dr. Furman, who treats people with nutrition, with basically whole food plant-based nutrition based on the highest levels of nutrients in the food. And I worked for him, and I was his recipe formulator, and I taught his patients, and I was the patient coach, and I also did research for him. So from him, and it was certified by him, I learned how to do all this scientific research. So now I am able to research, and I know how to research, and I know how to tell when research has been cherry picked or twisted or whatever, which most people don't know how to do, unfortunately. And most research out there is being used for that. I will say the government used to fund, the NIH used to fund a lot of different research, but some of our presidents in the past, I believe Ronald Reagan, and he's not the only one, there were Republicans and Democrats, have defunded all of this. And they have said, basically, the corporations need to fund our research. Even though we pay taxes for research, they've now turned it over to the corporations. And then when corporations fund it, then they use it as a marketing tool. So it's very easy to cherry pick and twist research to say what you want it to say. So a lot of that's going on, making it very difficult for anybody to know what the heck the truth is about anything. And anyway, that's the situation we're in. So I've done that, and I teach culinary nutrition. I've taught it for years and years. I've taught Walmart executives. Walmart had me teach at one of their facilities. I've formulated products, vegan products for Walmart. I have a product with some partners that we're just getting ready to launch. And that's why I'm real busy and I can't focus as much on the wand. And so that's, I guess, and I've learned a lot from all these doctors and scientists. I've written a book called The Super Antioxidant Diet. It's on Amazon. I wrote that with a
That's
PhD
right here.
cell physiologist. Yes.
Right here it is.
I wrote it with a cell physiologist, and we will be selling that book, the ebook, with a course. We're doing a course at enlivenfoods.com is a company that we create products, delicious food products, because I am a classically trained gourmet chef. And what I did was I translated that type of cooking and that taste and that mouthfeel and all that stuff into whole food, plant-based food. So my stuff tastes very gourmet, tastes
Yeah,
very high,
I can attest to that. It does.
very rich, but it's all with whole plant foods. And
Right.
so anyway, we sell those products, and then we have a course called the Enliven Your Life course that goes along with the products, and then the book. Anyway, we're doing all that. So if you go to enlivenfoods.com, you can, give us sign up, and we'll have your email address and be able to let you know what's going on. And we're just getting ready to launch this line of mug muffin meals, which are gourmet. They're amazing and they're filling and satisfying. So we're just getting ready to launch that. And I can't eat any of it. I am a chef that I cannot taste my food because I know my stuff so well that I have to formulate through smell. My sense of smell is very sensitive. And so I call myself the tasteless chef because I can't taste my food.
Well, Robin, you are beautiful. Thank you so much. And we
You're
look
welcome.
forward to having you back and give us another update as you go along your journey.
Yes.
So God bless you, sister.
Thank you. Thank you. Bless
All
you.
right.
Bless you all.
So I think it's our turn now. Oh gosh, we can't hear you. We can't hear you anymore, Glenda Sue. Can everybody hear us? Give
Yeah,
us a thumbs up. Yes. Okay.
right.
Well, Andre is going to talk first, so you go.
Okay, moet je even voor ons unmute. Sean.
Can I give my testimony? Can't hear you, but I'll carry on. Just show me if you can't hear me. My first experience with the wand was I had a calf muscle that didn't want to heal. For about 2 weeks, I had to walk crippled to get along. And then I wanded it the first evening. And then the next morning it was still sore. And I went to a shop and I got out at the shop and it was still sore. And then I got in the car and I went to see somebody in the hospital and I had to park far away. And I didn't know how I was going to get down to the hospital. And when I got out the car, the pain was gone, completely gone. It's like magic. It was so sore that I couldn't walk and then suddenly no pain. That was my first experience. Then the other thing that I experienced is I've got some dental work in my mouth, so I never blow on my mouth. But about 2 weeks ago, I found that I could chew my food on the right-hand side, and the pain that was underneath the bridge has disappeared. So I'm pain-free in my mouth as well. That's a second thing that just changed. And then, of course, my energy returned. I've got a lot of energy again. Then I usually sleep well, but at the moment I sleep like a baby. When I sleep, and when I wake up, I'm wide awake. That's the other thing. And then something strange happened to me. I suddenly got what do you call it? Chilblains on my hands.
Hmm.
I don't know whether it was from the cold or what. And I started blowing my hands, and the sensitivity has gone out of it again because it was very sensitive. So I've still got like red blotches on my fingers, but it's not sore anymore. So I had 5 things just in the 5 weeks that we had the wand. And to me, that is amazing. And I'm going to give over to Juanita now, and she can tell you what her experiences are.
Yeah, so what I'd like to say is that we've been on a wellness journey for a very long time, since 2005, and we've only been really excited twice in this entire time about a new thing. The first was in 2006, and now for the first time since then, with the iTerra, we will, when we hear about something new or somebody tells us to try something, we will always try it on ourselves first before we tell anybody else about it. And we are really excited about the iTerra. So for me personally, for as long as I can remember, my right shoulder, it used to be frozen, and with the first exciting stuff, the frozenness went away, but it still had a very strange clicking sound. If I put my hand on my shoulder and I rotated it, I could hear a loud clicking sound. That was the first time I used that. The clicking sound went away and it hasn't come back. It's quite extraordinary. And then in 2013, I broke the femur in my left leg, and I've got some wonderful pins in my leg. But because of it was in Egypt, and they didn't really have proper physio facilities. I walked with a limp, and it throws out my right hip, which becomes started to be quite painful. And so I use a lot of the time on my hips and of the blowing, and I haven't got pain in my either hip anymore. I certainly feel like I'm walking better. Yeah, I'm definitely moving around better. Then the other thing that was happening to me is, over the years, in my hands, my veins I'd get burning sensation in my hands, and then there would be veins in my hands that would burst, and I'd get the blood under my skin. And since I've been wanding my hands, that's stopped completely. So I'm very excited about that. I'm sleeping better. I'm post-menopause. I seem to be, I think it's too soon to say, but I think that I'm getting less hot flushes. I'm sleeping better, got more energy. And then I work in an environment where 90% of the people are vaccinated and are sick around me all the time. And I was coming home with sores in my nose all the time. It was driving me nuts. And now I wand and breathe in almost I try and breathe in the hot air through my nose, and I don't get sores in my nose anymore. So I'm very happy about that. And the other thing is our 9-year-old, I use it on our 9-year-old Yorkie, who weighs 2.1 kilograms and couldn't jump from the floor to the bed anymore, and is now behaving like a puppy again. Jumps everywhere, and certainly seems to be a lot more, he moves around with ease now, and he loves it. He'll, when you switch the wand on, he comes and stands, he wants to be wanded. So yeah, that's our experience with it. And just talking to people is easy. because we've seeing results, it's easy to, without trying to sell something to them, to just tell them about it. And I love the water. I love what it's doing to the water. And I don't have, I work long hours, so I don't have time to wand every night. I try to, because I feel like I'm spoiling myself by wanding. It's like having a good massage. And I work in a very stressful environment in logistics. But if I can't wand, at least I know that I'm still getting the benefit with the water, because I drink the wanded water. We both do every day, and Toby gets wanded water. So we're very happy about that. And that's us.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to mute, and Melinda, you'll have to unmute yourself again.
Right. Wonderful. That's wonderful there. Thank you very much. And now we're going to hand over to Sanette. She's going to share with us. Thank you. You can unmute her. Unmute. Wait.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, good evening, everybody. The first time I heard about this, Melinda, I forgot about this one. My friend's dad had problems with his kidneys, and before he could get dialysis or something, they had to implant this little thing in his hand or his arm, and that wasn't healed. So he had huge problems with his kidneys not functioning properly. And she told me that Laura's borrowed the type of a hairdryer that they could use, and he was blowing that on his kidneys, and that helped him tremendously for 2 months, because that little place didn't heal in time. So, and eventually it did. But the big thing is that the water and using the iTerra on his kidneys for 2 months, that helped him a lot, until he could eventually get the dialysis. And then yeah, that was my friend's. She's got a spa, and this girl was working there. She does the same work as Dr. Shaw and Melinda, and she got her iTerra, I think last year June already, from Australia. And she was using it, and that's where I heard of the machine. And eventually she got a job offer in Cape Town, and they asked her to go back, and they asked me to come and do all the tests and use the iTerra machine on people at the spa. So I went for training, and I had to do a lot of lymph activation. That's basically that warm-up thing they tell us to do before we use it. I did a lot of that, and then also some patients. One guy had diabetes, and his legs were very swollen from water retention, and the wand helped for that. And also Laura, when she was still here, she used to treat a lady for breast cancer. She came from Cape Town, and she would come in several times a day for her to treat her. And eventually I just thought, this is too much to be there every day and just do lymph drainage. And, you know, I actually wanted to sell the product, but we couldn't sell it because I didn't know it wasn't available in South Africa. And then I just quit, and I said, no, I'm not going to do this every day. Just treat people for, you know. And eventually I just used it on myself. I used to have a lot of back problems since I was young. I'm a tall girl, and since I've had the wand, I still get a bit of sciatic problems, and when I feel the pain coming, I use the blower for about 10 minutes, and I can actually feel it. It's just I never use pain or anti-inflammatories anymore for my back, and also for my lymph activation. And I've learned a lot from Robin now, so I'm going to also look after my gut a little bit better now with and using it for that as well. And that's all I know about iTerra. I'm very excited, and I love telling people about it. It's a wonderful product.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Klapana. Thank you very much, Sanet. It's exciting. I was so happy when you told me you got it and you paid quite a lot more for it. And
Yes.
that it is now available here in South Africa from the stockers. So we are all pioneers. Thanks to Glenda Sue that blessed Dr. Magda
Yes.
and now we can bless everybody sharing this. So thank you so much, Sanet. Okay, now it
Mm.
be Karina with a quick Karina host. She's gonna talk, and she's got something interesting to share. I want you guys to have an open mind and just listen. And then Charles is going to explain what happened there, and then he's going to talk about the web of life. Thank you.
Hi there. Good to see everybody. And here's my magic, like my son says, the pipe. And anyway, I've been blessed by Sean and Melinda with this information and this device, for which I'm very grateful for myself, so much more energy. And now that you were speaking about veins, I checked my veins on my legs and they are like really looking so much better. And I'm busy with a protocol because I went to Charles for a live blood analysis, and those I didn't take the vaccine, but those nasty little buggers found their way into my blood. So I'm on the plan of like obliterating them out. So with the next test, when Charles and them comes again, I'll show you. So they're on their way out, and yeah. Then I've had people, Greta and Gerrit Maas in the Northern Cape, they're just close to the Botswana border, and they have a little lamb that was bitten by a jackal, a baby, like tiny, on the back and on the legs and things. And they normally the farmers would just have to kill that little lamb because they won't make it. Couldn't stand up, couldn't drink, and they started blowing it. And now the lamb is sort of limping, but it's walking and it's drinking by itself, and it started to eat. And Charles got the video for you. And then they have a sheepdog, and that was, you know, had some issue, and it couldn't even get onto a couch or a sofa or a bed. And then they blew the sheepdog, and now it can get onto the truck by itself, you know, when it jumps at the back of the farmer's bucky. And this is all just in a matter of a few days. So super great. And then I have these friends that are in Van Wyksdorp, and they said that Caroline was bitten. She shared that she was bitten by a venomous spider, and I said send a photo, and I asked them to take pictures of water in a glass bowl and measure the energy field with the rods, and then let me blow it distance. It's 330 kilometers from here. So with my intention, I blew, and I remembered the photograph on the glass bowl. So I saw the blue light and the beam and, you know, blowing it consciously through that bowl. And the water changed. The energy field increased drastically. There was a change in the normal. They really have good water already, but there was a change in the water. So over distance, it worked in the quantum field. And then I've treated her just from my consciousness through the photograph that I saw of her. And so going through it very slowly, very slightly, and then with my mind focusing on the injured area of the spider bite. And within 24 hours, it's now, say 30 hours, it's much better. The itch and the burning and all of that is gone. And so I'll continue with that with them. So there is no borders. The person doesn't have to come to you if it's not possible. Then I had Veronica, who measured all her energy centers, and just the throat one was still okay. And after I've consciously blown her with the device, just like a few, it's not a full session even, it's like maybe 5 minutes. And then she measured it again, and all the energy centers were completely open. So for this, there's no borders, there's no distance. If somebody can't come to you, ask them for a photograph. Use your consciousness, because you know what it looks like when you blow somebody in the hands, and you take it there with your heart, and it works. So Charles will explain how it works, and that it's almost like when somebody prays for you over the phone and people get healed. It's the same in the quantum field. There is no time and space. Everything is just there. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Karina. Charles is now going to explain how it works, and he's got a book, The Web of Life. Years ago, he read this book, and he says, you know, Charles is always ahead of everybody. The Web of Life. There you can see John Davidson. And when I told him what you were telling me, he immediately mentioned the book, The Web of Life. So I said, well, you will have to explain it, because not everybody will understand what happens. But we have, with the skew, you can do subspace treatment. So it works basically on that. So it's very interesting. Yeah. Okay, Charles, over to you.
Yep. This is quite a paradigm jump. It was for me to realize that consciousness works through the quantum field, and it has no distance. So the first inkling I got of this is when I saw studies done on human cells. So they removed, in the experiment, they removed human cell from a person and put it in a test tube that was very comfortable for the cells, that nutrition and the right temperature and so on. And then every time the origin, the person from whom the cells came, was asked to have an emotional thought, like something pleasant or unpleasant, the cells would react in the test tube. So eventually they removed it to a different location, say in another room. It was still reacting. In the end, they had it 20 miles away, it was still reacting. Then eventually they took it to another continent, it was still reacting. So what on earth was going on there is what they realized is the cells stay connected to the origin. And even plants do that. So what they couldn't fathom was what is the connection. It also was not, there was no time constraint on it. So when the origin had the emotion, the cells reacted instantaneously. And it's exactly the same phenomenon which people are familiar with. They ask a prayer group to pray for someone in a different country who's in some situation, and they consciously want the situation to improve. So they wouldn't even try and do that if it was futile. So people, you know, prayer groups, they pray for people in difficult circumstances like natural disasters and political disasters and so on. So for them, it's not a strange idea. But for a scientist, this is anathema. They're not even allowed to talk about it. So all the real people who should do the investigations are constrained by the profession that they're in. They're going to lose their job or their funding if they dare to go outside of the paradigm. And the paradigm that is forced on scientists now is this thing called this Newtonian physics we compelled to adhere to. It's like a narrative, like the COVID narrative. If you stepped outside of it, you were ostracized. And so I feel sorry for scientists. I'm in a group of scientists at the moment where they're very open-minded. They want to learn about their constraints. They didn't even know they were constrained. So this John Davidson, he explains the modern technological effect and the constraints placed on scientists. And that's why we have to make a disclaimer. This stuff really heals through the quantum field, but we're not allowed to say anything about it. That's why we have to make disclaimers. And it wasn't approved by the FDA, like the FDA knows everything, you know. That's the world we live in. And I see on the containers of the Itera device, it says it's an air blower. Doesn't say anything more than that.
Hot air blower.
Hot air blower. That's to just get through the customs, you know.
Mm.
So we must just realize the political milieu we live in. It's stacked up against the truth. That's where we live. So little groups like this that we are in now, we can talk the way we like, we can share information, we can share real testimonies. But what I understand it 100%, it's working through the quantum field, which connects everything. Everything is connected to the quantum field. I had a patient today, I said to him, you didn't understand this. So I said, do you know who made a spider web? He said, yeah, the spider made it. It's a intricate web. I said, who made the snowflake? That wonderful harmonic pattern in the snowflake. So he was stumped. I said, a spider didn't make that. Something made it.
The creator.
The creator made that. He made the your network bandwidth is low. Okay, I hope you can still. Okay, I can't change the bandwidth. Can you hear me? No?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay, thank you. So I'll talk more about this subject. Here is another book.
Can't see it, but yes, now off. Yes, off. Yes, off.
Oh, they can't see it. Okay. It's called Living Energies. This was written in German language many years ago, and it took about 60 years before someone translated it into English. And until you read this book, you'll never understand water. I think Pollack has read it because he seems to understand it. And I'm just very excited that there are technologies like Itera, which utilize this quantum field to help people. It's wonderful. What's that?
Was tight. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we must, we're going over our time now. So I think we'll, I'm sorry about the bandwidth here. Here it's one of our, the bandwidth is one of our, the prices you pay for living off grid. We live in the mountains here, and I had a guest here whose adult son said, why, no, the mom said, why do you live here with the scorpions and baboons? And the son said to his mom, look, mom, they don't have burglar bars here, which is, it's the benefit of living off away from the masses.
Okay.
But you also don't have good bandwidth. So Melinda wants to say something. Thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you. It was very interesting. I trust that you all found it interesting. And yeah, Charles has a huge library. Most of you know that is about his library. So we are still gonna have many more interesting chats and talks here on this. And we will work out something for next Tuesday. Hopefully we will be able to, from our venue in Somerset West, be able to do the Zoom call. And we said questions and answers, but I think there's now the time is there is anybody that has an urgent question? Otherwise we must leave it till next time. And I trust that you guys have enjoyed this. Right. Okay. Thank you so much. No questions?
Wait, I have a question. I have a question.
Okay. Let us have
I want to know more about the mechanism of action of this. You heard, because I want to know why it's working, how it's working. Do you all know more about that?
Yeah, I'm quite a skeptic. So the first round of exposure to this ITERA technology, I saw all the testimonies, and then I realized it does work. And then because I've been programmed by scientism, which is a type of religion, I wanted to know how it works. But fortunately, I have a huge background in quantum physics and the quantum field, and also in Bible scripture, and the whole science of frequencies. I'm very well versed in that. And then I saw the wonderful work by Gerald Pollack in America, who discovered how life is generated by the interaction between light and water. And then I realized that's all I don't want to trivialize it, but that's what the ITERA is doing. It's producing the right light, and they insist that you take water when you use it, which is, otherwise you can't produce the result. It's the interaction between the frequency coming from the frequencies coming from the ITERA device, which is interacting with the water inside the subject. And that creates life. And that life is required by your DNA to do their programmed work, their created work. And most of our DNA on Earth in all humans is deficient in energy. So if you give it enough energy, it does its work. What does DNA do? It normalizes things. So if something is sick or broken, it will normalize it on condition that there's enough life in there or energy. And the philosophers over the ages have called it prana and chi and vitality, all sorts of words, because they don't actually know what it is.
But it's the creation.
That's how the creator put the whole thing together. He made it self-healing, self-normalization, and free energy. The sunlight is free and water is free. Everyone's got it. But most people we test now, they're deficient in water. I've got a book by Butler Mungi. He says you're not sick, you're dehydrated. And it's all about enough power, which the DNA runs on. The DNA needs power to run on. And so if you can replicate the frequency and the water in any system, it will produce the correct energy. And that's how we see these wonderful things like plants know when to germinate. In South Africa, we have a small antelope. It's called a springbuck. They're very easy to farm with them, and they know 6 months before their time whether they should have single babies or twins or triplets. They know 6 months before their time what the grazing is going to be like. How on earth do they know that? There's something, just like the shape of a snowflake, that's alerting them to have 1, 2, or 3 babies. Because the mother can't feed 3 babies if the grazing is not good. And so the farmers and the people who farm with game here, they know if the animals have triplets, it's going to be a good year. They know 6 months ahead of time. And so they tuned into that.
When the intention is clear, the mechanism appears.
Yeah, we learned something in leadership that said, when your intention is clear, the mechanisms to make it realized will appear. And that's intent works through consciousness, it works through the quantum field. And unfortunately, all our scientists have been they've been mugged they've been forced or coerced into not investigating these things. A lot of them suspect it, but they're not allowed to talk about it. Unless they break out of the system, and then you get people like this John Davidson and this Walter Schauberger. They weren't honest. They could say what they like. They could investigate what they like. And now, I think the inventors of the ITERA, they understand the politics. So
I think
they won't be like Raymond Prife, who got his lab burnt down and he ended up in poverty. Or like Semmelweis, who discovered puerperal fever. He said it's a germ, and they didn't know what a germ was. So he was a professor in Budapest.
In Vienna.
He was an obstetrician.
In Vienna.
And you know what they did to them? They ostracized him, took all his qualifications, and he ended up as a beggar in Paris on the streets because he spoke the truth. And the same thing goes for the guy who wrote Plichta, who wrote the book God's Secret Formula. He proved mathematically that there's a creator. He proved it mathematically. He had 3 PhDs. He ended up as a primary school teacher in England. That's where he ended his life, because he dared to speak the truth. But unfortunately, if you don't know of that paradigm, you don't understand all these strange things going on. And I love what the time we're living in. It's all getting revealed right now. It's the age of revelation we live in. And so we're going to get whistleblowers popping out all over, and new technologies like ITERA devices. And I love the ITERA because it does the cardinal thing. It creates water and frequency to meet each other at the right level. Then you create life.
That's what's helping Robin, because she wanted to know how it's working,
Yeah,
why it's working for her.
So that is the mechanism, how it works. I know it works, but I wanted to know how it works. And if you can, get hold of the book called The Fourth Phase of Water by Professor Pollack.
What is it again? What's the name of the book?
It's called The Fourth Phase of Water.
We'll send you the details.
Yeah, it's got videos on it, and he speaks on TED Talk. But he's a professor of physics in some university in America. He discovered this in 2014. Here is his book.
Wait, hold on. The Fourth Phase of Water, Gerald H.
Pollack.
Just a minute. I've got something in front of it. Pollack.
Yeah.
AC. Fourth Phase of Water, Gerald.
So
okay, great.
I don't think he knows about water, about ITERA, but I think the ITERA guys, inventors, they know about water. That's the way.
So is the structured water the fourth phase of water?
Yes.
What the ITERA device does to it? Because I know that I'm hydrated. The mast cell causes you to become dehydrated. Yes. Mast cell activation. And so now I'm hydrated. My veins are big again, and
now your body can create life, and the DNA runs on life. It needs like fuel.
Oh,
that's what it's doing. It's a wonderful time to be involved in this, because before
it is
even exist.
Yeah, this device came at the right time. It's very, very exciting, because in our practice, you know, every time when I come and take over after Charlotte has seen the patient for an hour and a half or so, and then my first thing is I look at the container, the jug with the glasses and the jug with water. And they've been there, when it's a couple, they've been there 3 hours and they had no water. Then my first question to them is, why didn't you drink the water? And Charles says, yeah, here comes the Gestapo. She's now going to go for you because you're not drinking water. But it's amazing, and it's crazy how people do not drink water. And I was one, when I met my husband, I didn't drink water. And I was nauseous when I was pregnant with my daughter. At 42, I got her, and anyway, and I was pregnant. I was for a week. I was so nauseous. I thought I want to die of that nausea. And he said to me, "Drink water, Melinda." And I said, "But you don't understand. It makes me nauseous. I cannot stomach the water." And then he let me suffer for a week. And in that week, I had a craving for watermelon. That's all I wanted to eat. And he said to me, "Look what your body is telling you." And I said, "I'll eat the watermelon, but I can't drink the water." He let me suffer more. That Friday night, he took the book off the shelf, Your Body's Many Cries for Water. He opened it up on a page, and it said there,
Page 15.
page 15, if the fetus is dehydrated, the pregnant mother will be nauseous. And you know the thalidomide scandal, where those babies
Yes.
are born without limbs? It's an anti-nausea
Right,
drug which wasn't tested.
right, right, right.
The jab is not tested on anybody. They're all guinea pigs. Exactly the same thing there. And anyway, and the next day we had to go to a conference, and I was nauseous past because I heard it, I read it, but I still don't want to drink the water because it makes me sick. Anyway, so I said to him, "I'm not going with you to the conference." And he said, "But I've paid for it. You must go." And I said, "I will go with you, and then I'll go and sit in the loo because I'm nauseous all the time." So anyway, and he got very angry, brought me a 2-liter bottle of water. And he said, "I'm leaving you now here in the bed. And this bottle, 2 liters, you will drink. You will finish it. And a father will know if you will not lie. You can't lie because the father is with you." Anyway, and I took that bottle of water and I sipped it. And I literally took sip for sip for sip. And I felt like vomiting. And then I hold it in and I sipped and sipped. And when I finished that 2 liters of water, gone was my nausea to never, ever come back. There I've experienced the value of water. And now the water now with the structured water is 10,000 times better than the water that we drink every day. It's healing water. I mean, just with my frozen shoulder, just 2 treatments, and further on in 2 weeks, all the structured water that I could drink. My frozen shoulder is like this, that I can actually move this, and I can do the move I've showed you, which I couldn't do. I couldn't do it. It was too painful. So we are very excited. It comes at the right time, and we are all pioneers, and it's fantastic to share. Tell people, share the water. You don't even think about the business or anything, just share, and it will come your way because people need this. So thank you very much, everybody. We've gone over our time, but thank you so much. I think you also enjoyed it a lot. And thank you, Robin. It's an amazing story. And my heart goes out to you. And protein pump inhibitors is actually deadly what they did.
Oh, horrible, horrible, horrible. What they do, terrible.
And you know what? They're actually giving it now to babies with acid reflux. They're giving protein.
I know.
Crazy what's going on. So I see this device as, with the evil that's going on there, the minute. Yes. So this is, we are ahead of them. We just stay ahead of the evil people, because we have something here that we can share, yes. And help people. Desperate people can be helped now, and that's exciting. So thank you for your time. It's exciting. We'll see you next week, Tuesday again. And hi,
Thank you.
AJ always just come and show his face. Okay. Blessings. Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Ja, look at them. Allemaal lekker goed wat sy daar agter het.
Wie?
Daai gokkie. Die